Imagine a world without the buzzing of bees, where flowers fail to bloom, crops wither, and ecosystems lose their intricate balance entirely. Bees are not just insects. They are vital pollinators, sustaining agriculture, biodiversity, and the very survival of countless plant species globally. Their role in pollination ensures fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds develop, feeding humans, animals, and maintaining ecological stability. Despite their small size, bees influence entire food chains, linking plants to herbivores and predators, and sustaining healthy ecosystems worldwide. Without bees, many flowering plants would decline, affecting species diversity, forest regeneration, and the survival of countless wildlife populations. Scientists estimate that bees pollinate over 70% of global food crops, making them crucial for global food security and nutrition. Honeybees, bumblebees, and solitary bees each have unique roles, timing, and preferences in pollination that complement ecosystem diversity. Pollination is more than transferring pollen. It ensures genetic variation, stronger plants, and higher quality yields in agriculture and wild plants. Bees also support ornamental plants, flowering landscapes, and urban gardens, enhancing ecological aesthetics and local biodiversity. In addition to food crops, bees pollinate medicinal plants, supporting natural remedies and pharmaceutical research for human health. Their foraging behavior follows patterns that encourage cross-pollination, enhancing genetic diversity, and resilience in wild and cultivated plants alike. Farmers recognize the value of bees for crop yields, often introducing hives to orchards, vineyards, and fields to boost production efficiently. Beyond honey production, bees contribute to wax, propolis, and royal jelly, products with economic, medicinal, and cosmetic significance. Pollination by bees helps maintain healthy forests by ensuring seed production, supporting plant regeneration, and sustaining wildlife habitats. Bees act as environmental indicators, with population changes signaling broader ecological issues such as pesticide overuse, habitat loss, or climate shifts. Declining bee populations threaten global agriculture, food availability, and the livelihoods of farmers dependent on pollination services. Colony collapse disorder, habitat destruction, and climate change have intensified threats, requiring urgent research and conservation initiatives. Urbanization reduces flowering habitats, creating challenges for bee survival and forcing pollinators to adapt or migrate for resources. Bee-friendly practices, such as planting diverse flowers and reducing pesticide use, support populations while sustaining crop productivity and natural ecosystems. In natural ecosystems, wild bees support flowering plants that humans rarely cultivate but are critical for wildlife survival and ecological balance. Bees provide indirect benefits, supporting insect-eating birds, mammals, and reptiles by ensuring a steady supply of plant-based resources. Their efficiency surpasses many other pollinators due to specialized structures like pollen baskets and fine hairs that trap pollen effectively. Some plants rely entirely on specific bee species for pollination, forming interdependent relationships that underscore ecosystem fragility. Honeybee colonies are highly organized, with complex communication methods such as the waggle dance that coordinates foraging efforts efficiently. Each bee colony functions as a superorganism, distributing labor between foragers, nurses, and defenders to maintain hive health and productivity. Bees also impact seed dispersal indirectly by enabling fruit development, which attracts animals that spread seeds to new locations. Their activity supports sustainable agriculture, reducing the need for artificial pollination methods that are costly and less effective. Conservation of bee habitats is critical, including wildflower meadows, forests, wetlands, and even urban green spaces. Pollinator gardens, rooftop beekeeping, and community planting initiatives provide refuge and resources for both wild and domestic bees. Education programs highlight the ecological importance of bees, encouraging responsible gardening, reduced pesticide use, and habitat protection. Farmers and gardeners increasingly adopt integrated pest management to protect crops while safeguarding pollinator populations and ecosystem health. Native bees often outperform honeybees in pollinating certain crops due to unique behaviors, preferences, and adaptation to local plants. Some bee species have specialized relationships with specific flowers, ensuring reproduction that no other insect can achieve. Pollination affects not only quantity but also quality, resulting in larger, healthier fruits and higher seed viability. Bees transfer pollen as they forage, enabling fertilization in flowers, which is essential for fruit, seed, and plant reproduction in both wild and cultivated ecosystems. Each bee species has unique foraging habits, preferring certain flowers, times of day, and habitats, creating complementary pollination networks across landscapes. Honeybees can communicate the location of abundant flower patches through the waggle dance, coordinating colony foraging efficiently to maximize resource collection. Bumblebees perform buzz pollination, vibrating flowers to release pollen that many other pollinators cannot access, aiding crops like tomatoes and peppers. Solitary bees, though small, are highly efficient pollinators, visiting many flowers in a single day and often outperforming honeybees for specific plants. Pollination by bees ensures genetic diversity among plants, producing healthier seeds, stronger offspring, and more resilient populations over time. Flowering plants rely on bees for reproductive success, with some species entirely dependent on specific bees for fertilization and seed production. Bees' activity affects entire ecosystems, supporting herbivores, birds, and mammals that rely on flowers, fruits, and seeds for survival. Without bees, the decline of flowering plants would impact food webs, causing cascading effects that threaten biodiversity globally. Agricultural systems depend on bees for high-quality crop yields, including apples, blueberries, almonds, and cucumbers, sustaining global food security. Urban bees support community gardens, parks, and green spaces, improving pollination and enhancing the ecological value of cities. Bees are active throughout different seasons, adapting their behavior to environmental conditions and the availability of flowering plants. Early season bees pollinate spring blossoms, ensuring fruit trees produce crops, while late season species support late blooming wildflowers and vegetables. Some bees specialize in particular plant families, forming co-evolved relationships critical for survival and reproduction of both bees and flowers. Habitat fragmentation reduces floral diversity, forcing bees to travel farther, increasing energy expenditure, and reducing pollination efficiency in isolated landscapes. Pesticide exposure is a major threat, impairing bee navigation, foraging ability, reproduction, and colony health, emphasizing the need for sustainable farming practices. Climate change disrupts flowering schedules, creating mismatches between bee activity and plant availability, which may reduce pollination success and crop yields. Bees support seed dispersal indirectly by enabling fruit development, attracting animals that consume and transport seeds to new locations. Pollination affects both quantity and quality of fruits and seeds, producing larger, more nutritious, and viable food sources. Some flowers produce nectar exclusively for bees, while others provide pollen-rich rewards, maintaining energy for foraging and colony development. Social insects like honeybees have organized colonies with division of labor, ensuring efficient foraging, brood care, and hive maintenance. Worker bees forage while nurse bees care for larvae, and guard bees protect the colony, creating an intricate system of cooperation. Bee populations are indicators of environmental health, reflecting habitat quality, pesticide levels, and ecological stability in surrounding areas. Declining bee populations threaten both wild ecosystems and human agriculture, highlighting the urgent need for conservation and protection efforts. Wildflower meadows, hedgerows, and forests provide critical forage and nesting sites, supporting the diversity and abundance of native bees. Community-driven initiatives, such as planting pollinator gardens and reducing pesticide use, can significantly bolster bee populations locally. Bees are keystone species, meaning their presence disproportionately affects the structure, productivity, and diversity of ecosystems. Protecting native bees is essential because they often outperform honeybees in pollinating local plants, contributing to ecological resilience. Solitary and small bees have nesting behaviors that maintain soil aeration, nutrient cycling, and ecosystem health. Bees' contribution to human nutrition is immense, supporting the growth of fruits, nuts, and vegetables that provide essential vitamins and minerals. Pollination services reduce the need for artificial methods, saving energy, resources, and money while improving agricultural sustainability. Bees also contribute indirectly to animal diets, supporting herbivores, seed dispersers, and predators that rely on flowering plants for survival. Flowers have evolved specific colors, scents, and shapes to attract bees, demonstrating coevolution between pollinators and plants. In some regions, certain crops cannot produce viable seeds without bee pollination, making bees indispensable. Despite their importance, bees face severe threats including habitat loss, climate change, pesticide exposure, and diseases, which collectively endanger global pollination systems. Urban expansion reduces wildflower meadows and nesting sites, forcing bees to forage in fragmented landscapes with limited resources. Industrial agriculture relies heavily on monocultures, providing limited nutrition for bees and increasing their vulnerability to stress and disease. Pesticides, especially neonicotinoids, impair navigation, reproduction, and immune systems, significantly contributing to declining bee populations worldwide. Climate change alters flowering times, creating mismatches between bee activity and plant availability, reducing pollination success and crop yields. Invasive species compete with native bees for resources, sometimes introducing pathogens that further threaten local pollinator populations. Colony collapse disorder, primarily affecting honeybees, has caused dramatic declines in managed hives, prompting research into causes and mitigation strategies. Habitat fragmentation limits genetic diversity among bee populations, reducing resilience and adaptive capacity in changing environments. Pollution, including heavy metals and airborne toxins, accumulates in bee habitats, negatively impacting health and survival. Disease spread is accelerated by stress, overcrowding, and weakened immunity, highlighting the importance of healthy habitats for pollinator resilience. Climate-induced droughts reduce floral availability, limiting food for bees and forcing colonies to expend more energy searching for resources. Extreme weather events, such as floods or storms, destroy nesting sites and disrupt foraging activity, affecting colony survival. Agricultural chemicals can accumulate in nectar and pollen, affecting not only bees but also the organisms that rely on these plants. Many solitary bee species are understudied, making conservation challenging due to lack of population data and ecological knowledge. Protecting pollinator diversity requires habitat restoration, including planting native flowers, creating green corridors, and preserving natural nesting sites. Community-led conservation programs educate the public about bee-friendly gardening, avoiding pesticides, and creating safe habitats in urban areas. Sustainable farming practices, such as crop rotation and organic agriculture, reduce stress on bees while maintaining crop productivity. Bee hotels, artificial nesting sites, and green roofs provide critical shelter, supporting both native and urban bee populations. Monitoring bee populations through citizen science and research projects helps track health, identify threats, and inform conservation strategies. Public engagement is essential, encouraging people to plant pollinator gardens, avoid chemical sprays, and provide food and water sources for bees. Protected areas and wildlife corridors ensure bees have access to diverse floral resources across landscapes, enhancing survival and reproduction. Governments and organizations implement pollinator-friendly policies, regulating pesticide use, preserving habitats, and supporting research initiatives. Restoring wildflower meadows and hedgerows increases floral diversity, supporting native bee species and improving ecosystem stability. Conservationists advocate reducing artificial lighting at night to protect nocturnal pollinators, allowing natural foraging rhythms to continue undisturbed. Climate-adaptive strategies include planting resilient floral species and creating shaded areas to support bees during extreme heat events. Bees are critical for maintaining crop quality, ensuring larger, more nutritious fruits, vegetables, and nuts that support global food security. Educating children and adults about bees fosters awareness and inspires participation in pollinator-friendly practices and local conservation efforts. Pollinator protection initiatives often integrate farming communities, balancing agricultural productivity with ecological sustainability and biodiversity conservation. Some bee species are specialized for rare plants, making their protection essential for preserving unique ecosystems and maintaining plant diversity. Collaborative research explores disease resistance, habitat requirements, and nutrition to enhance bee survival under challenging environmental conditions. Urban gardens, parks, and green roofs serve as refuges, supporting diverse pollinator populations within cities and industrial landscapes. Reducing pesticide use not only protects bees, but also benefits other beneficial insects, soil organisms, and overall ecosystem health. Climate-resilient floral planting ensures that bees have continuous food sources throughout the growing season, supporting colony strength and reproduction. Bee conservation contributes to broader environmental goals, protecting forests, wetlands, and agricultural landscapes that bees display extraordinary navigation skills, using landmarks, the sun's position, and polarized light patterns to find flowers and return to their hives efficiently. Some species can remember hundreds of flower locations, optimizing foraging routes to maximize pollen collection while conserving energy for the colony. Honeybees perform intricate waggle dances to communicate food sources to hive members, coordinating complex cooperative behavior rarely seen in other insects. Bumblebees vibrate flowers during buzz pollination, releasing pollen from flowers that many other pollinators cannot access, supporting crops like tomatoes and peppers. Some solitary bees specialize in unique plants, forming essential mutualistic relationships that maintain biodiversity in natural and agricultural ecosystems. Successful pollination by bees directly increases crop yields, fruit quality, and seed viability, providing tangible benefits for farmers and local economies. Research studies show that areas with higher bee diversity produce larger and more nutritious harvests, highlighting ecological and economic importance. Bee colonies exhibit remarkable cooperation, with division of labor ensuring foraging, nursing, defense, and hive maintenance operate seamlessly to sustain survival. Bees' extraordinary sensory abilities allow them to detect ultraviolet patterns, scents, and even weak electromagnetic fields, aiding flower recognition and navigation. Observations of wild bees demonstrate problem-solving skills, such as learning to manipulate flowers or structures to access nectar efficiently. Some bees exhibit adaptive behaviors, shifting foraging patterns in response to environmental changes, flower availability, and seasonal cycles. In urban environments, bees adapt to gardens, rooftops, and parks, contributing to city biodiversity while navigating human-made challenges successfully. Historical accounts highlight how bees have supported agriculture for centuries, shaping diets, economies, and cultural traditions around the globe. Pollination by bees enhances not only agricultural productivity, but also forest regeneration, supporting wildlife dependent on flowering plants and fruits. In some ecosystems, the removal of bees causes dramatic declines in plant reproduction, illustrating their keystone species role. Conservation programs worldwide highlight bees' role in sustaining life, creating educational campaigns, pollinator gardens, and protected habitats. In regions facing food insecurity, bee-assisted pollination significantly increases yields of staple crops, supporting nutrition and livelihoods for local communities. Honeybee colonies produce honey that serves as a sustainable food source and contributes to regional economies, cultural heritage, and health practices. Bees also produce beeswax, propolis, and royal jelly, which have medicinal, cosmetic, and artisanal applications worldwide. Pollinator diversity ensures ecosystem resilience as multiple species can compensate when one population declines, maintaining consistent pollination services. Studies show that native bees often outperform honeybees for specific crops, emphasizing the need for diverse pollinator conservation strategies. Extraordinary bee behaviors include temperature regulation within hives, coordinated brood care, and collective decision-making to locate new nesting sites. Some bee species navigate vast distances, traveling kilometers in search of flowers, while returning to the colony with precise accuracy. Colony formation and swarm behavior demonstrate instinctive coordination and social intelligence, ensuring survival and adaptation to environmental changes. Pollination supports genetic diversity in plants, producing stronger seeds and offspring that are more resilient to pests, disease, and climate stress. Bees' global impact extends beyond food production, influencing ecological balance, forest regeneration, and the survival of countless animal species. Protected pollinator habitats enhance ecosystem services, including soil fertility, carbon sequestration, and water retention, indirectly benefiting humans and wildlife. Bee-friendly urban initiatives improve biodiversity, reduce heat island effects, and provide educational opportunities for communities about ecological stewardship. Beekeepers collaborate with farmers to optimize crop pollination, demonstrating the economic and ecological value of managed pollinator populations. Success stories show that reintroducing native bees to degraded areas restores plant populations, improves fruit production, and strengthens local ecosystems. Educational programs use bees to teach about cooperation, environmental responsibility, and the interdependence of species within ecosystems. Wild bees play critical roles in maintaining forest undergrowth, supporting herbivores, and ensuring reproductive success of native plant species. Long-term bee conservation requires global cooperation, integrating scientific research, policy frameworks, and community participation to protect pollinators and sustain ecosystems. International organizations promote pollinator-friendly agriculture, habitat restoration, and reduced chemical use to support bee populations across continents. Countries have established national pollinator strategies, focusing on habitat protection, sustainable farming, research, and public awareness campaigns to safeguard bee species. Protected areas, wildflower corridors, and urban green spaces provide essential foraging and nesting resources, ensuring bees thrive in diverse landscapes. Agricultural practices that support bees, such as crop rotation, polyculture, and organic methods, increase pollination efficiency and ecosystem resilience. Community gardens, school projects, and local initiatives engage citizens in creating pollinator habitats, spreading awareness, and contributing to conservation efforts. Citizen science projects allow volunteers to monitor bee populations, report sightings, and collect data that informs research and conservation strategies. Reducing pesticide use and selecting pollinator-friendly chemicals are critical steps for protecting bees in agricultural and residential environments. Planting native flowers throughout gardens, parks, and green spaces ensures continuous nectar and pollen availability for wild and domestic bees. Creating artificial nesting sites, such as bee hotels and protected cavities, helps support solitary bee populations and maintains biodiversity. Governments provide incentives for farmers to adopt pollinator-friendly practices, balancing productivity with environmental stewardship and ecosystem health. Public education campaigns highlight the importance of bees, encouraging communities to participate in habitat creation, sustainable farming, and pollinator protection. Integrating green infrastructure in urban planning supports pollinator diversity while providing ecological, aesthetic, and environmental benefits for cities. Research into bee nutrition, disease resistance, and habitat requirements informs adaptive conservation strategies and strengthens pollinator resilience. Climate-resilient planting strategies help bees cope with changing flowering schedules, temperature fluctuations, and environmental stressors. Protecting both managed honeybees and wild native bees ensures redundancy in pollination services, maintaining crop productivity and ecosystem balance. Awareness campaigns emphasize that every garden, balcony, and park can become a sanctuary for pollinators with thoughtful plant choices. Bees also serve as environmental indicators, signaling ecosystem health and highlighting emerging threats to biodiversity and agricultural sustainability. Supporting pollinator-friendly initiatives contributes to global food security, healthy ecosystems, and the survival of countless plant and animal species. Local communities benefit economically from healthy pollinator populations, as increased crop yields and higher quality produce enhance livelihoods. Schools and educational institutions use bees to teach biology, ecology, and environmental responsibility, inspiring future conservationists and scientists. Protecting bees preserves genetic diversity, ensuring resilient plant populations and adaptive capacity in the face of environmental change. Reforestation and habitat restoration programs incorporate pollinator-friendly plants, promoting ecosystem recovery and strengthening ecological networks. Collaboration between scientists, farmers, governments, and citizens creates scalable solutions that enhance pollinator survival and ecosystem stability. Bees' survival directly affects human nutrition, global food systems, and the health of ecosystems that sustain life on Earth. Reducing habitat fragmentation through connected green spaces, hedgerows, and wildflower strips allows bees to forage efficiently and reproduce successfully. Community workshops teach practical steps for pollinator protection, including planting diverse flowers, avoiding pesticides, and providing safe nesting habitats. International agreements, such as the International Pollinator Initiative, coordinate conservation actions, research, and awareness campaigns across borders. Citizen engagement in monitoring, habitat creation, and advocacy amplifies conservation efforts, ensuring long-term protection of pollinators and ecosystems. Sustainable food systems depend on healthy bee populations, emphasizing the connection between ecological stewardship and human well-being. Bees' critical contributions extend beyond pollination, influencing biodiversity, seed dispersal, ecosystem resilience, and the beauty of natural landscapes. Long-term conservation requires integrated approaches, combining research, policy, community participation, and habitat management for pollinator survival.